especially the father of him, went there in his first trip, and he happened to go to the Mount of Blessing. And when he was there, he met a rabbi, and they were talking, and he's just like, we just want to bless people. And he brings up the verse like, well, the foreigner will come and prune our vineyards, right? And jokingly he's like, well, you're here, you might as well fulfill a scripture and come prune my vineyard. And then bam, 22 years later, they actually do that. And so their whole purpose is not about trying to convert them. It's not about to try and proselyte them or anything like that. It's about blessing them and fulfilling that part of scripture where they come to different vineyards and different farms to help fulfill the scriptures of blessing Israel, helping their grapes plant more vineyards, helping their fields with fences for their cattle and all that kind of stuff. And so helps them do those things, help them with the harvesting of that. So that's their whole purpose. The only religious group that's outside of Judaism that has been allowed to stay there permanently in a base in a Orthodox community on the top of the Mount of Blessing. They actually gave them space. They don't give, it's not theirs, they don't own it, but they are allowed to build on that. And now there's 22 people that live there permanently year round that don't have to get visas, like normal people. And so they have this special agreement with the government that's honoring them and allowing them to do this thing. So it's pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I strongly recommend that. So this first picture is just a little personal thing. I'll give you a little insight. My last name is Askren. Askren is a very unique name. I've never met another Askren I'm not related to. My daughter was applying for a job, another job, and after the interview, it went really well. And then this guy's like, hey, can I ask you a personal question? And she's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. I have a friend, a very close friend. Her name is Askren. Do you know it? And my daughter's like, every Askren is related. So, what did I do? Did a timeout?
Yeah.
Okay. So I better stay here and wiggle this every now and again. So it was funny is that we got to meet her family. Was when our family separated in the mid 1700s in Kentucky, and so I've done a lot of research, and so she was just very excited. Her dad converted to Judaism, and then she ended up moving to Israel, and so it's pretty crazy that out of like that. And then Abby ended up getting that job, and now they talk to her, and it's pretty cool. So just a personal connection, a miracle. Every time we go to Israel, miracles happen. So, and this is our 10th trip, well, my 10th trip to Israel. And then Misael, who went with me at the last minute, he wanted to go, his first trip, and so this is why I recommend going to Hayavel if you're physically able to do this. Even if it's your first trip to Israel, I would recommend going with Hayavel and doing a tour with them. So it's not a tour, it's a work tour. So I didn't know all this when I went, but you do work. The one I went to was only men, and it is hard work when you're working, but you got to do special things too. So we got to go to Jerusalem, got to have a special tour on Temple Mount, had a special tour in the city of David. We got to go to Garden of Gethsemane, doing singing and praise and worship. We got to go to Hebron and into the caves of Machpelah. We got to go to Mount Moriah. We got to go do a lot of these special places. I didn't know we were going to do all those things, but you get to do that under special escort with a special tour. So with that said, anyways, this is his first trip to Jerusalem, and he was just overjoyed. After traveling all day, I picked him up, and when you go, just so you know, if you ever needed to store your luggage, the best place to store your luggage is not at the airport, it's at a train station in Jerusalem. So we stored his luggage after he traveled for 26 hours. This poor kid, right? I say poor kid, he's 48, so he's a kid to me. Some of you might think that I'm a kid. But he had been up for a long time, and I'm like, we're gonna go Mach 10, just bear with me. And we did almost 12 miles walking after he did 27 hours of travel. I love that. So this is the Temple Institute. Who here knows about the Temple Institute? Okay, awesome. And they have a great exposition there. You can go, and this is the menorah that's there. Right behind it is the synagogue for the old city. And yes, that is all one piece of gold. It's pretty cool. Went to the city of David. David there with the city of David. And then this is, you will see part of the grave sites all like here. This is part of Mount of Olives. And then the Eastern Gate. And so funny is that you'll see, probably make out a little bit of those words, that's Arabic. And so Arabs have built graves all on the outside of the Eastern Gate, right? Why is that significant? So they don't really believe the Torah, but they have heard that the Messiah is going to go through that gate, right? So Arabs are like, well, we know that, it also says in their Bible that he can't defile himself. And so what we're going to do, even though we don't believe any of it, but obviously we do believe a little bit of it, we're going to put our graves there. So all out there all on that side there is full of Arab graves.
Wow.
So they think they're defiling the grave?
They believe that if the Christ goes through there, he would defile it, so he can't go through the gate. And so they put graves there. Well, we all know that he can overcome that. Right? It's just funny, is that they don't believe it, but they do believe it. Just in case we're gonna do that. Right? It's like, no, either you believe it or you don't believe it. I just think it's funny. Garden Gethsemane, this is the oldest tree that they've registered there. And it was there before the time of Christ. Maybe they're estimated a couple 100 years, maybe 300 years before Christ. So it's completely fenced off, because I know this is going to be shocking to you, but there was groups of people years ago in the 80s that were carving chunks out of it. So it's a olive tree. Yes. And they were carving chunks out of it, and they're like, I got a piece of the Christ, right? Because his hand probably touched here. And so they were killing the tree, so now it's guarded. Much more interesting fact. So we said that this tree is about 2,300 years.
What?
They still get olives from it, and they still make olive oil from it.
Wow.
That's what's crazy. I absolutely love that. It's very expensive.
Wow.
I can't afford it. And then I'm slightly awake, but this is us on the bus coming back, and he was totally zonked. I thought you guys would enjoy that. All right, now we're back at the airport, because I was there days earlier, and I took him on that run, and then now we're meeting back to the group that is meeting to go up and do all the work. And you'll notice that there is a hodgepodge of people all there, right? So we had people from all over the United States. So we had people from Washington, Colorado, Georgia, Florida, where else? Tennessee. And then in the world, we had South African, a couple of Australians, and where was the other one from? Canada. So a lot of people all over the world. It's pretty crazy. Oh, that's the video. So I'm going to interview a little bit bigger exercise icons so I can see them. They are, and maybe you guys have heard it. I haven't really heard it in the context before, but Christians, for the most part, is not the most trustworthy word in Israel. And the reason why is way back beyond from the Crusaders and so forth, and then in 1948 and 1967 and 1970, all these different wars, the Arab Christians, they're Arabs, but they call themselves Christians, have always been the enemy to Israel. So many times they were the ones, like in 48, that were showing the enemy, like, oh, here's the Jewish community. This is where the weak spots are. And so all they got is from the Crusades on forward, even before then, Christians were out there trying to kill them. And if they were trying to kill them, they're helping somebody kill them. And so when the average Christian or the average Jew, they hear Christianity or Christian, they're like, are you here to kill me again? Right? So there's a lot of hesitation. It's sad that's what it is. So Hayavel, kind of like, we're Christians, but we are Zionist Christians. And so then they're like, what do you mean by that? What's a Zionist Christian? We believe that you're here. We believe that you're the people of the land. And we believe that you have the right to defend yourself. And we want to only help you. We're not going to try and convert you to anything other than what you are right now. So we're only going to do service. So when you're talking to somebody there, you're like, okay, we believe in Christian Zionism. So when you put those two together, then they get a totally different outlook and different understanding of what the purpose is of Hayavel. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Anybody have any questions with that part? Nope. Okay. With that, they are very much into singing and worshiping, and it's pretty amazing. I need to open with, it might play with yours. I don't know what, this is just a typical day. They do morning worship every day before work. Oh, the video's not going to work. I don't know what program was on my computer, but you have only one thing. Is there another open with?
I don't know.
Just below it, if you click on open with, it might bring up more options. Just below
I see right here. There we go. Maybe it'll play with this. Let's see. Maybe not. No. All right. Well, maybe we'll get videos again. So we'll go without videos. So at Hayavel, it is a full compound, and they come on. They have a coffee shop there and so forth. They, like I said, they have 22 people there, full time. They have full families that live there, and they have all kinds of different groups. The one group that I went was trimming vineyards, but they have construction crews that go there and help farms that are building different sites for concrete work and stuff like that. They actually invited me to stay 2 more weeks afterwards to go and pour concrete. And so I'm like, okay, I kind of need to go home. I've been here for a month. But it is pretty cool seeing all the different things they do. This is actually the first vineyard. This is on the top of Mount of Blessings, and they do a really good job of teaching. If you've never pruned before, they do a good job of teaching. It doesn't look it, but for me, I'm a desert man. Give me 90 degrees and I feel comfortable. I love that. Anything below 50, I'm freezing. So. As when we ever go to the Dead Sea and then the Negev, my wife is like, it's so hot. I'm like, I love this. So I'd rather live in a desert. And you can see a little bit here of where we are, right? So you have Mount Gerizim. Right next to ours is Harbaha, which is the Mount of Blessing. And then you have Nablus. Anybody know what Nablus is? Shechem? Yeah, not a good place. Very, very much a terrorist hotbed. So we're very, very close to them, and we'll see other pictures of there as well. Shechem is constantly, that's where you'll hear the terrorist activities on the highways and stuff like that. They're being funneled out of Shechem. This is the winery that the Mount of Blessings that provide. This one is, let's see, oops, that's another video. So you go to a lot of different places, right? But it's so cool to see the ones that are close by. We're going to have a picture here. This is Shechem, right? Who is buried in Shechem? Who's buried in Shechem?
A Jew.
Huh?
A Jew.
A very important Jew.
Joshua.
Huh? Yes. Yes, he is. So, used to be able to, till I think in the mid 70s, they kicked them out. But there used to be a small community down there by the tomb. And they used to be able to live there and go there. The Israeli government kicked them out. And so it's one of the few sites that Jews can't even go to. So even in Hebron, they can go there and see the caves of Abraham and Sarah and so forth. But here, they can't even go. It's very, very sad that they can't go there. I believe I have a picture of, let's see, of the tomb from my camera that I could zoom in. So I didn't move any, but this is my camera that was able to zoom in and see that. Pretty good camera, isn't it? So the temple right there, that's this dome is where it is, the tomb. And again, that's as close as anybody can go. They do say that Christians can go in there, but you're supposed to have armed escort, and they don't allow buses. So then, how are you supposed to have an armed escort? So the buses there, anytime you're doing any tour guides and stuff like that, the buses are armored. The glass is like, I don't know, an inch and a quarter or something like that thick, and all the sides are paneled with ballistic material. So Christians could technically go in there, but I don't know how we would get in there. That's not what you hear in the news though, is it? No. This is the house that the Jews are allowed to sit and watch and look over to make sure that they don't demolish the cave where his body is laid. They do Hanukkah up here, again overlooking Shechem, and you'll notice that the lights are broken, and so they had to replace those lights every couple of months because the Arabs would go up there and destroy them. And again, we're back at the same area. This is the Mount of Blessing, and they're building more houses. And if you hear in the news, this is settlement expansion. Right? But this is authorized land, but they will call this settlement expansion. But if I have another picture. All right, so this is still the Mount of Blessing. This over here, you'll see is the beginning of the Samaritan village, right? Everybody remember in the Bible a Samaritan village? Well, this is the one it is. So if if you stop right here, this is the end of the Samaritan village, and Nablus is over top of the hill, right? Well, the people of Nablus have found out that if they go and they build concrete structures, walls and houses, even though there's nobody living in them, then they feel that they've occupied that land. So constantly they're building illegally with no permits and so forth, and the Israeli government doesn't want to come in and demolish them because what does the world say? Oh, well, you know, Israel's building on settlement lands so that they can do too, and so it becomes a battle of trying to stop them before they get too far in their construction, and unfortunately that happens all the time. We drive by thousands and thousands of these buildings, and there's nobody in them. There's no lights in them because Arabs will get all this European money, and they will constantly go in there and just build. And it's very, 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 very frustrating. One of the best ways that Israel can claim the land. There's three different types of land, right? There's Israel land that's the government is recognized, like the top of Mount of Blessing, and then there's B land, which is monitored and run by the Israeli government, but Arabs and other peoples can build on that land. And then C land is all Arab land, like Ramallah, right? And like Gaza used to be, but Ramallah is run and organized all by the Palestinian Authority. Well, B land is the land that the Arabs are now trying to take and build, even though there's no people there. Our little store that's there at the place. Now you can really see the Samaritan village. Funny, tahina, right, which helps make for your hummus, right? Tahina, world famous tahina comes out of that little town, Samaritan village. And then Ari Bromowitz. Is anybody who's familiar with Ari Bromowitz?
He's been on the videos.
Yes, yes, he is. And then Jeremy Gimpel. Both of them are on there. Both of them did a little bit in the Knesset, and both of them have their own little YouTubes and so forth promoting. They're Orthodox. They're both rabbis, but they have found the connection with Hayavel. And even though they're Christian Zionists and these are Orthodox Jews, they have come together for a common purpose of knowing that the Christian nations are trying to bless them. And so they do a weekly podcast, and both of those two live about 2 hours south of Jerusalem. Well, not of Jerusalem, but they live south of Jerusalem. But they travel 2 hours each way to come do these podcasts every single week. There's a lot of things that these two are doing, and it's pretty amazing. And you actually get to go stay at their place if you go on one of their trips. But very, very good. You want a Jewish perspective of what's going on in Israel? Listen to their podcast.
But David, is that where they do the podcast from?
Yeah,
That is right there.
right there. And right behind us is the dining hall, which we eat. And so it's pretty cool. Very, very knowledgeable guy. And not only him, but there's a couple of them. They're like, we know what you guys believe, and a lot of the people that came here into this group, some were Christians, some were Messianic Jews, some of them were, a couple of them were Catholics. Don't know why they came. That's fine. But there was a lot of different faiths there, right? And so when you go there, Mr. Waller is like, we understand that you may have something that's contrary belief than what we believe, but let's agree to agree on what we agree, right? And so focus on the agreements, and let's move forward to give the service to the land. And so that's what's really, really important about them and their mission, and that's what they really appreciate. Is that let's agree on the things that we agree on, and then move forward, because we're all trying to do the blessing of part of the land. And that's what was amazing, right? And that's right there in the middle of this guy here. That is Jeremy Capo. All right, so that is, I walked at the very edge of the hill, and believe it or not, that's Tel Aviv. And that's the Mediterranean out there. Isn't that crazy? It doesn't seem like you're that close. What it is that the country's that small. Did anybody hear the stories of the cowboys going to Israel? This is one of the cowboys that decided to stay. So Charlie is from Montana and Wyoming, both of those. But he came there with about a dozen of his other friends, and they all met there, and absolutely fell. He says, I grew up Christian, I didn't really read the Old Testament, but I heard you guys needed help, and I came, right? Didn't really know anything. And his life and world changed immediately when he went, right? Fantastic guy, loves the land. Left his entire family, he obviously wasn't married, But the girl next to him was sort of the same story. She goes, I can't do any of that kind of stuff, but I'm really good at bookkeeping and stuff like that. Can I volunteer my time to help you guys, right? I grew up in a Christian family, and I just, wanted to come help. I heard about these Montana guys, these cowboys, and I think maybe I can help. So she comes, and then after a year that they're both there, they fall in love and get married. So, yeah, that's crazy. And she has family that lives here in Leavenworth, but I think she's from Missouri, Missouri, however you want to pronounce it. What's that?
Small world.
Right? Yes. So again, constant miracles that you go on. This is the restaurant that we stayed at. So on the top of the Mount of Blessings, the vineyard that we helped there, he doesn't make money completely off of the vineyard. Most of his money that he stays afloat is from the restaurant that's there. And so we would try to bless him by going and eating at his restaurant. One of the things, there was miscommunication with the order because there was a couple people that wanted to order, and so they over-ordered by about 14 meals, and they didn't really know what to do, and they were just kind of like, some people were freaking out. They're like, who do we tell the boss, the management of the compound that we over-ordered, and should we buy it, and stuff like that. So then I just got up, and because I was eavesdropping, because that's what I do, and I went to like 6 guys, and I was like, I'm gonna go buy 3, you're gonna buy 3, and they're like, what? And we're just gonna give them to the compound, right? Whoever wants them. And I said, they over-ordered accidentally, so several of us went and just bought all the rest that were there. So, and they absolutely loved it. Another vineyard we went to, we had some sort of friendly sheep. I really wish I would have figured that out. Sorry about that. You guys really love the videos. But we'll get it figured out, and then you guys can do it in your free time sometime. Now we'll go to here. So Shiloh, what's so important about Shiloh?
Where to begin? Shiloh is in prophecy.
Yeah, right? And it was amazing. Okay, in Israel, it's very common for the enemy to go and try to desecrate the holy spots, right? All over. Look at the Temple Mount, the Dome of the Rock, right? They're obviously doing that. Shiloh is a miracle. The enemy misunderstood what the site was and where it was exactly, and they never built on top of it. It's virgin archaeology. So Shiloh is where Joshua then goes and travels over the Jordan River, and then he gets in there and he builds the altar, and then gets led up to go to Shiloh to put the tabernacle, and kind of makes it not permanent, makes it out of cedar, but it stays there. And then that's where the tribes disperse, and they go out from there. And then, like it says, for them to come back a couple times a year, and they come back to there. Well, Shiloh had the tabernacle there for 369 years. It was there longer than it was anywhere else in Israel. So there's a special blessing upon Shiloh for the tabernacle to be, until it got sacked, and then the ark got taken away and so forth. But for a long time, it was super special. Everywhere in Israel they would go back to, and so forth. And there's a lot of different rituals, and this is where we're getting to this. Is that a lot of the things that they do, they give their offerings, right? Their sin offerings, the other faith offerings and so forth. But a lot of their vessels that they're doing them, like for the grain and for the wine and so forth, it says then to break that vessel there, right? So it breaks it on there. So let me see if I can get a picture so you have a little bit of understanding, and we'll talk about the red heifer in a second. Okay, so this is at the site. So Shiloh is kind of a hill, but there's also little hills around it. It's kind of like a natural amphitheater. So then people think, how can there be millions of the people of the tribes around Shiloh, right, and be able to see the sacrifices going on? It's perfect. If you've ever been to Gorge, and I amplify that by 100, but it's a natural amphitheater, so the people on the outer hills can see and hear, believe it or not, what's going on at Shiloh. So they can see down there by the tabernacle, and they can see what's going on. So when these sacrifices that are happening, some of it's grains, some of it's lambs and meats, and sometimes it's the wines and so forth. But these vessels then will get broken because they're especially holy because they're given over to the Lord, right? So then they'd be broken underground, not only there at the top of Shiloh, but on the hills around it.
So is that what these are?
Yes. So those are about 2,500 years old.
Can I pass these around?
Yes, they're yours.
Toda Rabbi.
Yes. So a lot of these artifacts were combed over by the antiquities, and they had taken everything they wanted, and so they collected some from the hillsides that they could easily, and then from there, and they made a pile, and then to special groups, they're like, so they've already picked through, they don't make it very known that you can go grab these, right? As a rule of thumb, don't grab artifacts without permission. These, they said you could have a few, and so I was able to take some home. And they said the redder ones are the older ones, about 25, maybe 2,700 years old. But the newer ones are probably only 1,500 years old, right? But that's still a lot older than we have anything in our world, right? That meaning the numerical world. It was pretty awesome. A lot of those are pitchers or basins, handles, and so forth, because those are going to be a lot hardier and they wouldn't break apart as much, right? And that's why you got a lot of the handles. But the round parts, you can get those there, but they just seem to break more because people were stepping on them, but the handles held up. So I was able to get some pieces and take them home and give them out as gifts. But it's super, super cool. I was just overjoyed in the blessing to be able to do that. Right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And so this is like, see how there's like an amphitheater here? Those would be all the tribes would be, on one of these hillsides here. And this right here is where the tabernacle would have been. So this is the beginning of it, and so it went all along this ridge line here. Any questions with that so far? Okay, we're almost to get to, let's see. Hannah's prayer. Everybody knows Hannah's prayer. It's one of the times that she prays to get have a child, and she ends up getting pregnant, and then when she does, she gives it over to the tabernacle for him to live in the temple there. Not temple, but tabernacle. Oh, David. This is the pile of the shards. And this is off to the side, and you would miss this easily, but this is where I was able to grab a couple of handfuls of shards. All right, red heifer. Who knows about the red heifer? Awesome, right? So, do you guys know that there was a practice burning of one of the heifers? Because I can't say it was official, because then we're going to cause a world stir, a world fight. So they did take one of them, and they did a practice to see, to make sure that they can offer up or burn a heifer. And what's so important about a red heifer is that you need the ashes of the red heifer to start blessing things for the temple to come, right? You can't do anything with the temple whatsoever, even close, until you're able to purify things. And the only way to purify things is through the red heifer. So the red heifers come from Texas, and the Temple Institute was going around all over America, and they're trying to find who has red heifers. And lo and behold, the Temple Institute and this farmer in Texas get together, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been reading the Old Testament. I'm a good Baptist, and I read that they're supposed to be red heifers." And so he spent his entire life finding and purifying and trying to get the best breed line for red heifers. And then they ended up getting like 6 ones that at first had met the requirements. So as the heifer gets older, it does get different hairs, but it doesn't have to be old, right? Because they want the young ones. And so the practice one did meet the qualifications, but remember, it was a practice one. Maybe not. We'll see. And Jeremy Campbell and Ari Bromowitz got little vials of the ashes. I know, crazy, right? They wouldn't give us them. People, I tell you. But it's really cool because you get to go see them, and they're going to breed them, it's just amazing. I
Is
absolutely
the
love
Temple Institute in charge of that?
it. They're, I wouldn't say in charge, but they are partially facilitating that. Yes.
Commissioning it?
Yeah, and it's in Shiloh, right? Which is another protected site. But Shiloh is right in the middle of Samaria, right? Judea and Samaria, the contested areas. And so it's top of a hilltop with Arab communities all around it. And so I think it's great that they did bring the heifers there, but it's also like you're bringing one of the most important things, part of the third temple, right in the center of the enemy's camp, which that's where you have the light. Anyways, but for them to be able to stay there and be safe, that's a miracle in itself. And I don't think people realize the miracle that keeps happening.
Torah says that Shiloh would return.
Yeah, I love Shiloh. So, who's heard of David Rubin? Have you met him before?
No.
Or? Okay. Have you seen him like on TV and Fox News and stuff like that? Okay, I got to build a personal relationship with David Rubin, and whenever I go there, most of the times he gives me a personal tour of the Shiloh site. But, and I think I told you guys before about the Shiloh Israel Children's Fund.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So read David Rubin's book. But David Rubin was a New York Jew, then moved to Israel, found Shiloh because he read the Bible and wanted to be a part of that, ended up becoming the mayor of Shiloh. And then him and his son were involved in a terrorist attack. His son was shot in the head, but he ended up living. And then he noticed that his son, because he was really young, was having trouble with trauma, right? There's a lot of trauma there, right? And so he's just like, there's a lot of kids with trauma. Because Israel, there's a lot of terrorist activities and so forth, and so he thought that, I think he had a background in some schooling, and he realized that kids that deal with trauma don't deal with it right with the public school systems and stuff like that. So he built a school specifically for kids that survived for trauma or have family that were involved in trauma. Mm-hmm. So his kids, that they teach all different methods from sensory things to music, the sounds, to animals, to try and help them learn and overcome the trauma. When I first met him, they had first started off with like 50, but when I first met him, they were like about 175, just under 200, and now they're almost going to break 2,000. And so, but that's been like 20 years, and they do no government funding. It's all private donations. And so our group and lots of other groups send him money every single month to help for that school. Who's the Jewish commentator? I think about it. Anyways, he's been on lots of different places and promoting that. It's a great organization, and I recommend looking into it, and it's pretty cool. All right. Does anybody recognize this guy?
No.
So this is the oldest IDF soldier. They brought him back as a ceremonial. When the war broke out October 7th, they were looking for lots of volunteers. When that happened, within 48 hours, there was roughly 400,000 reservists brought back into the military. And so unlike America can't do it, no other country in the world can draw in their reservists in such a short time fashion of 48 hours. And so they were looking at this, and this guy was part of the war before there ever was an IDF. He had asked if he could do anything, and so you can see some early videos of him in Israel, like, hey, this is the oldest guy, and they made an honorary IDF soldier. They actually gave him a gun and had him at a post. He's 87, 88, something like that. And I got to meet him, bought him a book. Very passionate guy. He's pretty amazing to talk, and he talked for almost 2 hours. Almost 90 years old, stood at the podium and told his story to us for almost 2 hours. I can't even do that. I was very impressed with him. Many of the vineyards have gone to promoting and supporting different families that died in October 7th. And then, so this is one of the vineyards that are there. And so they put the label of one of the people that was killed there and help support that. So their community looks after their own community. And I thought that was amazing. That was another bottle that broke. I have a really expensive, nice t-shirt that has the residue wine on.
Anointed.
Yes. Yeah, very, very good wine. And that's his vineyard there. Right now we're at the Mount of Olives, looking down, and if you can see the gate is there. It is on the edge. There's the gate that we were talking about and so forth. So some interesting things that people don't normally realize is there's a lot of trees there, right? On top of the Temple Mount. This is the Dome of the Rock. Dome of the Rock is not the mosque. Anybody know that? It is not the mosque. The Al-Aqsa Mosque is over here. This is the mosque. This is like a house of study, right? And they believe, the Jews believe, that the Holy of Holies is right about here. So, when the very few people that get to go up there onto the Temple Mount, because it's very restricted in hours for everybody except for Muslims. So Christians are restricted, Jews are restricted even much more. But when Jews go on the Temple Mount, they will only walk the perimeter. They never get anywhere into the center, or definitely not by the dome, because they don't even want to get close to transgressing going where the Holy of Holies is. So, and the other thing they do is that they take off their shoes on the ramp. So interesting note that for years, my first time there, me and my family, we were told always be careful. We're up there and we weren't talking verbally. We were in a small group and looking at each other, and the soldiers assumed that we were praying, and we were kicked off the Temple Mount. Because you don't even have to even be praying. They could think that you're praying and you should be able to be kicked off, right? And we've heard some really people getting arrested up there for even thinking about praying. But the group, times have changed the last couple of years, specifically 2 years ago, right after October 7th, and now there's a lot more freedom to praying up there for Jews and Christians. In our tour, we not only got to go up there and pray out loud and sing songs, and that is a miracle. Oh, there's a big down there. So let's see where the picture is. We had 11 officers watching us and protecting us. And as you can see, if anybody understands military and police, this guy is stacked, right? If you saw this guy coming at you, Chris, you'd be like, yeah, this guy means business. They all were stacked with heavy weapons, right?
We lost the picture of it.
Was that?
We lost the picture on the connection.
How did I do that?
Just timed out. Was it the TV itself?
Is it up?
Disappeared.
Maybe the TV's dead.
Maybe it's timed out.
That happens to me all the time. I get told, you're done. It's funny, in my in my business meetings at work, they always put me last in the agenda, so that I only get to speak for the time that's left. And like, yeah, you got 7 minutes. I'm like, I got a 20-minute presentation. Yeah, you got 7 minutes. Because I have a tendency to.
You lost power to the outlet.
Well, that's weird. Period when Hezekiah wanted to preserve the temple, he thought, well, we need to make sure that we can get water if we get ever sieged again because it's been demolished before. And so he took 2 people from each side to dig a tunnel to be able to get the aquifer so that they can supply water to the old city, right? Well, that's solid rock. And back then, 2,700 years ago, they're digging this tunnel, and it wasn't exactly right, but they were able to dig it. And so now, today, you can walk in Hezekiah's tunnel. I wish I could show you the picture, but at some points, it's about waist deep, and the walls are this way. And so somebody big and strong like me, a lot of times had to turn sideways, and sometimes then the ceiling was low, and so you're like this, and you're up to waist deep in water. It's fun. I highly recommend it. And then it gets sometimes really tall. But it's pretty amazing that they were able to dig those things, and so they could get the aquifer. Yeah, your computer just went off. And so that they could get the aquifer and preserve the city. And so it was pretty amazing to be able to do that. And then you're literally walking in the feats of the biblical days of so long ago, and seeing the miracle that they were able to do. That was pretty amazing. And the last thing I'll talk about is what happened in Hebron. Hebron is amazing. It is a very hotbed. More terrorist activities happen in Hebron than anywhere else in Israel. Hebron is where Abraham is buried, and that's also where they believe Adam and Eve is buried.
Oh.
Did you guys ever hear that? The Jewish tradition is that Adam and Eve is also buried. It wasn't by chance that Abraham chose that spot. So he traveled there for a reason, and there's some extra biblical articles there from the old rabbis of old of why they believe that, but they believe that. Well, there's a lot of different matriarchs and patriarchs that are buried there, right? And it's a very much of a heavy Arab town. Lots of activity there. It's probably 70% Arab and 30% Jewish. There's some tours that go there, but not a lot of tours because they're constantly, getting rocks thrown on them and so forth. But the times are changing, and now there is, in the last couple of years, there's been a much more emphasis of tour buses wanting to go there, Christian tour buses, which is good because then it brings in safety, right? It makes the Israel government fight against the Arabs more. I know I'm jumping all over the place. Just in case you don't know, Israel is much more divided government-wise than even America. America, you have Democrats and Republicans. You have the liberals that are crazy sometimes and have some weird thoughts and minds. The same thing happens in Israel, except for they don't have basically 2 parties. They have like 16 parties. And so their coalition government is a lot more dynamic, and even some of those coalitions are Palestinian Authority, which is like the enemy is in your camp, in your government. And so they actively will get information about military things and pass it off to their Arab brethren so they can go and try to attack. So there is a lot of division in the government. So it's not perfect. There's a lot of mistakes. But they're now trying to revitalize Hebron, and part of that was they're making a new visitor center, and so we got to be a part of that. And we went there and we were digging out rubble from Arabs that were trying to prevent any kind of growth of businesses for the Jews. They're not using buildings, but they will throw garbage and break things in order so that other people can't use it. But the visitor center is right there at the entrance to the caves, and the main entrance for all the Arabs to then go because they love Abraham, right? Abraham's their father, but there's a lot of clashes there. So they're building a visitor center, and in the visitor center they're going to build an ark, and in the ark they're going to have a Torah scroll, a very special Torah scroll. right? Because it's Abraham, the father, right? And so it's a very, very special place that they're building. It's probably all in all about twice as big as this room. There's different rooms and so forth. But they have the first cutout where the ark is going to go. And then they're like, you know what? We really need special stones for this. Where can we get some special stones? Yishai Fleischman, who knows Jimmy Capel and Ari Bromowitz, he kind of oversees a lot of archaeology and renovation, and he's actually their two's rabbi, Rosh Rabbi. And anyways, he got some information that a long time ago, like maybe 1,000 years ago, they did a renovation down in the caves, and they broke some stones apart so they could make a better walkway, whatever, and they stowed these in like another little cove, not cave, and they just been there. They've just been sitting there for a long, long, long time, right? Because nobody knows what they could do with them. Well, he sort of got permission. Then somebody told us. Anyways, there's 40 of us guys that are there, and they're dividing up jobs. And I, like, for the first time in my life, I was reserved, and I didn't get engaged on what to do, right? I usually like, I'll go do that, I'll go do that. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna see what God has for me, right? So I'm just sitting there, and Yeshai comes over, and I shake his hand, and he's like, good strong hand, right? Good strong arm. We're taking him and 2 others, and he goes and handpicks 2 other people. And he says, okay, we're going to go get in this unmarked van. You guys aren't going to talk. No cameras. Put your cameras away. We're going to do a special task. We're going to do it very fast. We're going to do it quick. And let's not engage with anybody except for me, right? And I'm like, oh, this sounds really sketchy. Awesome. I'm in. So then we go in the backside of the cave of Machpelah, which is all the Arab area. And he says, we're going to grab these stones, and we need to make some piles of them, and then we're going to put them in this unmarked van over here, and then we're going to drive them down, and then we're going to use them. And I'm like, okay. And so we're there, and then an IDF soldier comes over, and he has to call his commander, and Yeshai's like, no, I got permission, and he's like, are you sure? And like over and over and over, are you sure you got permission to do this? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he's like, yeah, sure, we got this. So it unlocks all these gates way back into the Arab area that aren't there yet, but they're going to be, because it's getting right by Ramadan, right? And so, like, really it's going to get tense, like, the next day. And so this was our last chance to go and get these stones. And so he says, okay, we're going to go around here, we're going to pull them out of this cave real quick, and we're going to make some stacks, 3 stacks of stones, which roughly runs about 70 to 85 pounds for each stack. We had 22 stacks, and there was 3 of us. And like, okay, we need you to run around the corners, run down these flights of stairs, and put them in the van, and then go back. We're gonna do this as fast as we can. We have maybe 7 minutes, okay? I'm like, okay, apparently you think that I'm a world-class athlete, right? But we were able to do that, and no sooner than we're driving off the compound that there was an incident right over here with about 20 youth, I say 20s, and they didn't know what we were doing, but it's still like, they had to do some flashbangs to get them going back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that we're able to do that. And we pull them all around, and it's just enough that they believe, because the bricklayer was there, and he's like looking at all the stones, and he made us all lay them all out, and he's like, yeah, it's going to be perfect. We're not going to have not even one extra stone. And so by all this random craziness in our life, we were able to go and get what we needed from the actual cave where Abraham was buried to build an ark in the visitor center. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of miracles. And thank you guys for your support and your prayers. It was much, much needed. When we were getting ready to leave, I know I said I was almost done, but it was very, very intense with the rockets. The worst day, you have between 45 and 90 seconds when the sirens go off and on your phone and so forth, in all hours of the day, to get into the shelter. We had 16 episodes where we had to go into the shelter in one day. Average like maybe 9, and that started happening, right before I was supposed to come home. And so I lived for 2 weeks, literally, night and day in a bomb shelter, and people were like, that's crazy, but I also have videos of us going to the store, right? And then it's just part of life where when you're driving, you're always like, okay, so whoever's not driving, the other person is always looking for the signs for Mamad. Mamad is a bomb shelter. And so whenever we're driving, your job is to know where the closest bomb shelter is, right? That's part of the normal life. We go to the shopping center, right? We're getting out of the car, and we're all looking like, okay, so we're gonna go to this store. This one doesn't have a Mamad. This one does, and so then that's just part of looking both ways when you're crossing the street. Is that you have to look for your Mamad, right? And it's unreal and unfathomable for Americans to understand what that does to somebody's spirit and somebody's psyche. But almost every time we were going, especially when we were at the compound, in the Mamad they were singing and worshiping. And all my other times, many times, that's what they're doing is that they're praying and worshiping because they need that to get over the trauma that's going on. It's pretty crazy. And then when we were getting ready to leave, I still had 2 days I wanted to spend with my daughter, so I chose not to leave with the big group because it kind of like is right at the beginning, like maybe they'll close, maybe they won't, maybe I can go in a couple of days, and that wasn't the case. But our people, 34 of the 40, traveled in an armored bus from Central, which is up there by Shiloh, all the way down to Egypt, through a lot. And they were calling me middle of the night because they know I'm not getting sleep while they're in the bus and going along the Dead Sea, and they could see these intercontinental ballistic missiles flying over top of the bus and then getting exploded over here, and the bus driver's nonchalant, like, it's mostly bulletproof. You be fine. Right? And Missy was like, yeah, I think the bus was traveling like 100 miles an hour. It was just like full out, full tilt, sending it. And they get down there to the airport. Well, rewind. I know, I'm sorry. I'm dragging on. Please forgive me. When we got the notice that they're going to go, it's at 5 o'clock p.m. The bus leaves at 7 p.m. It's coming up. And then they got told, okay, so you have to get a special visa. They'll provide it for you at the border of Israel and Egypt. But since it'll be in the middle of the night, they won't have means of electronic transaction. You need cash. And so all 34 people need $150 on one side and $150 on the other side. And the other side was a visa, which is actually a bribe, because there was no paper. They just like, yeah, give us the 150, right? So a lot of these people didn't have cash, right? I had a emergency fund of cash that I always carry with me because I've been there too many times, and that's a good note to have. And so I started buying things and giving out, and I helped people out for about the tune of about $780, so that they can get across the border because there was no time to stop at the banks and so forth. And so that was a miracle that I had that. They get down there and they're getting across from Israel to the Egypt border, and the Egyptians started confiscating things left and right. Shofars, all the shofars got took except for one. They took all the liquor, and they didn't even want the liquor. They were breaking in them and throwing them away, right? Because that's just what they do. You think Egypt is nice? They were not nice. So they would go through the bags, and if they liked clothing, right there in front of everybody, and they were like, "Ooh, look at this!" Right? And they just taking things.
Robbery.
Yeah, and several of them, when they started, like, hey, they're like, "Oh, give me your wallet," and then right there in front of them, just took all their cash out. Luckily, they didn't take their cards, but they took all their American cash or whatever cash that they had, and then they were able to go on to the airport and then fly out of there. They went to, I think they went to Germany, and then finally got back home. And so it was very, very difficult for them, but they were able to get home. And then my last day when I was trying to leave, I got canceled while I was at the airport. 3 times my flight was canceled, and they said, no, you're not going. I was out of 2 medications, my diabetes medicine and my heart medicine, for like almost 6 days. Those are 2 things you probably shouldn't be out of. But they're like, yeah, well, there's thousands other right here that also have excuses just like yours, right? And they were only allowing 50% flights capacity to fly out, and so it was very, very stressful. And at the last minute, I was able to get on there. But I think part of the diversionary that allowed me to get back up to the front is we got an air raid at the airport. And so we all got rushed down in there. We barely got down there before a big explosion. A big rocket, 22 feet, 3 feet wide, hit right next to the runway that we were going to leave and left a crater. And then we're able to get on the airplane, right? Why wouldn't you get on the airplane? So then we got to go and fly out. But it was absolutely a miracle for me to get out at that time. And so, but yeah, again, thank you for your times and prayers. If you have other questions about anybody that wants to go and wants to do that tour, I will give you lots of information on that. I do highly recommend you. There's several different tours. There's tours for families, as young as 4 years old, and they don't even set a limit, so you can be in your 70s and 80s. It's not a lot of hard work. It's called the Heartland Tour, and you can go plant trees and help out where you can, and then you get to go to these special places. And it's for about 2 weeks. So they have lots of different things, but I recommend that anybody that wants to go, even if it's your first time, doing an acts of service, we give you a lot more blessings and rewards than, I don't mean it this way, but it's how I feel now. If I'm just going there, just for me, it almost feels selfish. If I want to go and spend time in Israel, right? Now, if I go, I'm going to go and do some type of volunteer work. So I'm going to get back to the Lord. Any questions?
Can you email me some of those files later?
Yes. Yep. I could definitely do that. Yeah.
That's a new
I'll actually
computer.
just
I
make
need
you a copy of the pictures and stuff like that, and then I'll bring it in for next Shabbat.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
Sorry, died on you. That was
That's okay. It was a little bit more interaction.